This whole phrase, no-fault divorce, it's legalistic, some would argue, rather than realistic, obviously. William in Stockport, good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, Nicky. Okay.
Yeah, very well, thank you. And we've also got Rita Gupta, who's co-director and founder of Lipa's Gupta Family Lawyers. Hello, Rita.
Good morning.
I can't wait to hear what you think about this, whether it's an advance and what the pitfalls may be, or whether it's unalloyed good news. We want to hear from people about their divorces, the good, the bad, the acrimonious, the amicable, the ugly, the whole lot. What was it like for you, William? Thanks for getting in touch.
Oh, yeah, no problem, Nicky. So I got married relatively young. I was 21 when I married my partner. We met quite young, 18, 19 years old. At the time, normal relationships, it went quite well. We were in love. I proposed to her and we got married. 2.5 years into the marriage, and things were starting to not feel so good in the relationship. Obviously, I could tell that there was something up between us. And then out of the blue, one day she turned around and came out as gay. Now, obviously, I couldn't deny her the feelings. I'm a fairly reasonable person. It was just one of those things where, no one was really at fault in the relationship. Obviously, we couldn't continue being married, with her feeling the way she felt. So, yeah, it was just one of those things, really. No one was really at fault.
That said, must have been devastating for you, the mere fact that she didn't love you anymore. Yeah,
I mean, the way she phrased it was that she still loved me, but just not in the same way anymore. And at the time, yeah, it was devastating. Obviously, I was committing my life. A marriage is a lifelong thing. We got married in church, and it was supposed to be a lifelong thing. And yeah, at the time it was devastating. I could just sort of liken it really to sort of a tragedy, really like a Shakespeare tragedy where no one was really at fault. Again, like I previously said, it's just one of those things. Like I wasn't going to deny her the life that she, because ultimately with me she was living a lie. It seemed, being in a straight relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Had you been unfaithful?
There was. She's with a girl now. She's been married, and that she's got a happy life. She's got kids now. But there was a girl around at the time. She must have obviously been exploring her feelings to feel comfortable enough to say, "Okay, I am gay." And the thoughts had crossed my mind. I'd spoken with friends about it, sort of in the months leading up to it. That she was spending a lot more time with a particular friend of hers. Ultimately, she, like I said, she married her in the end. But I can't be sure on that. I'd like to think not, obviously.
Yeah. Then we get into the definition of blame, don't we? And this curious thing they had before, unreasonable behaviour. I mean, it carries with it a multiple of meanings. How are you now?
Oh yeah, I'm great now. It's been a long time since that happened. Maybe 10, 12 years since that has passed. I've moved on with my life. I've moved away from the areas that I was living in at the time. I've got a lovely new partner now. We've been together 5 years.
Brilliant.
So yeah, everything's fine now. Just a life lesson learned, really.
Yeah, I guess. It's interesting hearing about the process of the divorce for different people. How was it for you looking back? Yeah,
so we obviously had to tick one of the boxes, basically, as to the reasons why our relationship had broken down. We sorted out everything, sort of marital assets between us amicably, me and her family. We sorted that all out, so there wasn't any of that sort of trawl through. However, we did have to remain married for, I think, a period of 18 months whilst we sort of were able to satisfy the living. I think we were married, but we were living apart for a certain period of time, and then that the marriage had broken down irretrievably. But in that time, we had to obviously remain married legally. So just so that we could satisfy that particular reason to the courts why we were going to get divorced. There was no sort of option to sort of say, no, this is definitely not going to remain and what have you, and get an immediate clean break. So, like I said, we remained married for another 18 months legally after that, but obviously not together.
When it's finally finalised, it's a sad thing, though, isn't it? Whatever unhappiness there was.
Of course. I mean, the unhappiness obviously came from the fact that the marriage broke down. But we both wanted to get on with our lives once we'd all obviously come to terms with it. And to get the final piece of paper through, basically stamped by the courts, it felt like closure, obviously, on the whole experience. I mean, like I said, it was just one of those things. It was tragic that it happened. There was no ill will towards her or her family. Her family were very supportive over the whole deal. Obviously, they had to come to terms with everything that she was putting on their table as well. I remember being sat around the dining room table a couple of weeks after the news had broke, me, her, and her parents, and I think for a good half an hour we were just crying, like looking at each other, just knowing that that's it, you know, because I've become their family as well. They were my family too.
That's another very good point, isn't it? The intermeshing of families. Because the fastest growing families at the moment are unmarried families. Is that the right phrase? People who are unmarried. That's the fastest growing sector. Well, listen, thank you so much. I'm sure you'll be interested to hear what Rita says about some of that. Rita Gupta, co-director and founder of the Leaper Gupta Family Lawyers. We've got Rachel Oakes as well, host of the Good Divorce podcast. Hello, Rachel.
Hello.
Hi. Rita, I mean, you hear William there saying, you know, he had to tick one of the boxes. You know, what are the boxes? Like unreasonable behaviour, marriage...
Adultery,
yeah.
2 years separation with consent, desertion, and then 5 years separation. I have to say your listener's story was very heartwarming to see how he wanted to keep it so amicable and worked very hard with his now ex-wife and the family to ensure that the process was as painless as possible. And I think these new divorce laws, you know, they're not designed to undermine the sanctity of marriage, and nowhere across the country are family lawyers encouraging people to, you know, have a mass exodus of their marriages. It's not about that. What it's about is ensuring that the parties go through what is a painful process already, as, you know, can be heard from what your listener said, as amicably as possible without having to allocate blame or wait for periods of time. You know, what your listener said is that they wanted to move on with their lives, but they couldn't under the old system. You know, as family lawyers, we know that allocating blame in that way doesn't actually alter or impact the end result.
What if you want to allocate blame?
Financial settlement.
What
Some
if
people do.
Yeah, for example, your partner has been, abusive in whatever way, for example, physical or psychologically abusive, or as well, or instead unfaithful, and you want that on the record. You want to put that out there. That's how your feelings of loss and grief and anger can manifest themselves. A bit of catharsis. How can you do that?
Well, I totally accept that the new divorce laws are not going to change any of those feelings. And actually, I wrote an article recently for the Law Society about that point. We can't make this process a tick box exercise. The standardising of the process doesn't mean that people's lives aren't going to be impacted the way that they are when there's a divorce process. However, the right arena is not the divorce petition.
Well, how do you put that blame on the record?
Well, we would say that it's not advisable to put that blame on the record. What we really need to be doing is encouraging people to get that support through therapy and counselling, and so that they come out of this process the other end with the least possible damage. And I'm sure Rachel would agree with that the divorce petition is not the right place to air blame.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And my whole podcast, A Good Divorce, is about me talking to experts and people that have been through divorce to get tips on how to do it in the most amicable way possible. And I think having to write down that one person is completely to blame just kind of would unravel that whole thing. And then you get into bitterness and recrimination. And actually, I've been trying to move forward in a respectful way and not be focusing on negative things, because I think we both had our part to play. It's not always one person or the other. Sometimes it's nobody, and sometimes it's both of you. I think I probably did go into it thinking, oh, it's all my husband's fault. But over the process of making the podcast, I've actually realised that I had my part to play in it as well. And I have to own that so that I can move forward. If I get into a new relationship in a few years, I don't want to be making those same mistakes, and I want to be compassionate and remembering the good things so that my kids can see that, we can still be friends. Yeah, so I think it's a very positive thing.
You can't still be friends.
We are still friends. He came and had Christmas with us. So we all spent Christmas together.
Extraordinary.
Yeah. And my divorced parents as well. So yeah, it was quite a.
Nicky, it does happen. It can.
Not really. Not really.
Well,
you can. I mean, you say you can maintain a civilized relationship. I've seen that in friends, but not friends with each other.
Well, I mean, he's still part of my family.
He's different.
Well, when I say friends, we're friendly. Right. We help each other out.
Yeah.
I think it is possible.
You ain't going to go on holiday together, are you?
We are actually.
Okay, I give up.
In separate rooms, but yeah.
Listen, I'm just putting it out there. I know a friend of mine got divorced and they carried on sleeping with each other. So, I get it.
Oh, no.
No.
It's not like that.
Why?
No.
Don't be so judgmental.
No, I mean in my case.
Right, okay.
Yeah, no, we're not entangled in that way. But yeah, we're just working.
What an image.
We're working very, very hard. We're working very, very hard.
I just want to put it out there. A lot of people would, I think, agree with me. There's no such thing as an amicable divorce. And this word is being entirely misused here, amicable, from what it is defined as in the dictionary, I would contend. What if you can't contest it right now? Why can't you contest it? What if you want to contest it? What, for example, if you are, you'll put me right on this, but what if you're a devout Catholic, for example, who believes, and it's not exclusive to Catholics, of course, but believes in the sanctity of marriage and the eternal nature of marriage, until death us do part, certainly, and that once you are married to one person, that is it. Why can't those people contest it?
Well, the new laws will not allow that. I mean,
it's religious discrimination, isn't it?
Well, in fact, it's one of my discussions this evening, particularly about how it impacts the Asian community, the South Asian community. I mean, the reality of the matter is that in general, society's views and approach to divorce has changed. The new laws will not allow a party to defend just because they don't want the marriage to end. There's very specific criteria on when you can dispute, because we've changed the terminology, such as jurisdiction and validity of marriage. Now, I totally accept that the human side and the emotion is not going to change because we have new divorce laws, and that is going to be a very bitter pill for people to swallow, particularly if they felt very wronged.
And they don't believe in divorce. They don't believe that it is actually, something that can happen because of their religious beliefs.
I absolutely agree with that. And I've dealt with cases from the Asian community and, factored for Catholic clients who have those feelings. Oh. But nobody's encouraging anybody to rush into this decision. I think most people would be encouraged to really reflect, explore marriage counselling, whether the marriage could be saved.
But they don't believe in it. And, they're religiously, they want to, I'm sorry about being a bit spiky today. Okay. I need some more coffee.
I'm too far to get you any.
Well, if they want to. But Helen, let me bring Helen in Newcastle under Lyme. Hello, Helen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being there. I think you have an interest in this. Let me see. Oh, family lawyer. Excellent. What do you think about these changes?
I don't think that they will make a significant contribution to reducing animosity. It's not generally the divorce that is the cause of most conflict. It's the financial issues, and it's sorting out children's arrangements. And what people say on the divorce petition, for most, once they've had advice, it's not significant.
Irrelevant.
And there will be new frustrations with the new process. It will take longer, and that will cause frustration. There will be delays in finalising financial issues because the new process is longer, and that causes a lot of distress and conflict.
Window dressing, in other words, Helen.
Yes, I think it is.
Well, tell us about some of your experiences as a family lawyer. I'm sure you know very well the situation that I was citing earlier on from a good friend of mine, where you start with the best of intent. I'm not talking about starting the marriage with the best of intentions, is what we all do. But you start the divorce with the best of intentions, and you think, we can do this amicably. We can be civilised about this. We can remain friends about it.
There are cases. There is such a thing.
There are always
as
exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions to the rule, but some people start with those intentions, and it very often spirals into a cauldron of acrimony, doesn't it? Because of all the things that you mentioned.
Yes, it does. But I think if for a particular couple there is conflict, and that conflict arises from the circumstances that have led to the breakdown of the marriage, and they're unable to address that, then there will be conflict, whether we have the old style divorce, which is now gone, or the new style divorce. There will still be conflict, and that may be something that the legal system cannot address, and is not really well equipped to address.
Impossible to address that, Rita, and that will remain.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that Helen has said, particularly the financial process. That has got to be the most difficult part of a marriage breaking down. And that's not going to change, I think. But, it can be very symbolic that there's somebody is the petitioner, they're allocating blame. They've put a variety of reasons in a divorce petition as to why the marriage broke down. It sets the tone negatively from the start. And I absolutely agree that, this isn't going to change human emotion. It's not going to change the financial process because that's the same. But it does go some way in setting the tone more positively from the outset. I mean, particularly when there's children, you are always going to be parents. You may not love each other, you may not want to be with each other, but you're always going to be parents. And you use the word civil, and absolutely, you don't have to be everybody's best friend. I would say that would be the exception rather than the rule, but you have to be civil and respectful. Show your children that you are respectful to each other. That has to be the aim here.
You'd hope so.
Yes. I take the point about setting the tone, but I don't agree that what the divorce papers say is so significant in setting the tone. I think things like the initial communications between parties and between their solicitors, that they are significant in setting the tone. I think having awareness of the different processes by which they might address these difficult issues is really important in setting the tone. Having information about alternate dispute resolution, and maybe even compulsory mediation assessment or compulsory SPIPs, that's Separated Parents Information Programme, they are really important.
I don't agree with that, actually. It would make a big difference to me. And I think when my husband moved out of the family home, if he at the same time was having to shoulder the blame for the divorce breaking down, I think psychologically that would have made a lot of difference, and that would have led to a lot of bitterness and a lot of difference in the way that he treated me, and a lot less goodwill when it came to co-parenting and things like that. So have you actually been through a divorce yourself, Helen? Or is this more about your clients? Yeah, and you didn't find that made a difference?
No, I didn't. And I hear what you say, but I do think that there was a lot of misunderstanding, because it was never the case that the fact relied upon to prove the irretrievable breakdown of the marriage had to be the cause, or was stated to be the cause. In actual fact, the ground for divorce was that the marriage had irretrievably broken down. And what people colloquially called the grounds for divorce were just the fact, or if you like, the evidence that they relied upon to demonstrate that the marriage had irretrievably broken down. So I do think that with education and information, a lot of parties who were initially anxious about the prospect of an unreasonable behaviour petition or an adultery petition, perhaps weren't so anxious about it when they had a better understanding of what it really meant.
I think, Nicky, one of the things that I would say is really important, because, as I said, these feelings aren't going to go away. They're not going to miraculously disappear with a law change, is the importance of people getting therapy and support through this process. Because, like you said, they are going to want to have some form of outlet, particularly if there's been, a lot of incidents that have occurred during the marriage. And the importance of therapy and support just can't be underestimated. And I think as family lawyers, one thing I'm, very intent on doing is just making my clients, feel that I'm listening to them and that I'm not approaching their life as a tick box exercise.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of positives in this law as I look at it. Allowing joint applications for divorce for the first time. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, that's right. They can. But that does depend upon an element of cooperation between the parties.
Of course. That's the next point, isn't it? A couple of texts here. Children and money will still result in family court cases. That's essentially what you were touching on, Helen. Another one here.
Yes.
Divorce lawyers have a lot to answer for. Sorry, Rita. It's inevitable.
It's okay. I have seen some of those comments in the media.
Steel yourself. I'm convinced that my own and my ex's divorce lawyers cooked up a scenario where they literally doubled the cost of it for both of us. They preyed on our animosity and to cause greater hurt to our children because of the way we had been fired up by our respective solicitors. David in Southport. They're like those American football coaches at the side. Go on, mate. Go on. There's a bit of that going on. I know so many people who've said that. And another one's the key to a good divorce is to stay away from lawyers. If both parties...
That can be quite dangerous, but...
Absolutely.
Let me just finish the text. I'll just finish the text, Helen, I'll come to you. Nicky, the key to a good divorce is to stay away from lawyers. If both parties are reasonable in the beginning, it can work, and it worked for me. Lawyers go to battle and deliberately set up conflict where it may not have existed before. Where there is harmony, they bring discord, Helen.
No, I would recommend that people talk to a solicitor who is a member of Resolution.
Yeah.
Resolution members sign up to a code of practice which commits them to addressing family matters constructively, wherever possible, and avoiding animosity, because we do have an understanding of how destructive that can be and that is not in the interest of the parties. Of course, there will always be those lawyers who prefer the adversarial approach, but Resolution members are quite different.
I absolutely
lawyers
have
bills to pay. Are you a member of Resolution? Right.
I am,
okay.
and actually, the vast majority of the people that I work with, as family lawyers, are always trying to settle cases and guide parties towards a resolution. I mean, you have to accept also that as lawyers, we do have to act on our clients' instructions. We work very hard to ensure that we don't ride our client's emotional roller coaster, which is what you said, that you start off saying that it can be quite amicable and everything's fine. And then you go through the process and it can be more acrimonious. So, parties do go through that emotional roller coaster, but I wouldn't accept that, the lawyers are the ones who create the conflict in this at all.
Well, why don't you discuss who gets the Labrador? I mean, I'm seriously.
Dogs are very important.
It's something like, I've spoken to lawyers about this, it's something like that, because it is, the thing about it, nobody loves dogs more than me, but a dog is emblematic of a family situation and what it was, and the comfort and the love and everything you used to cherish, and you love the dog together. And it's a kind of, I completely understand it, but it's another weapon in the whole thing, isn't it?
It can be, yes. And those are issues, animals, dogs, pets, children's arrangements, much better suited to mediation or collaborative family procedure than the court system.
We're looking to share a lawyer, actually, so that would,
What? Sorry, share a lawyer?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Unfortunately, that's not possible. But the nearest thing.
Well, no, hang on a minute.
No one could share a lawyer.
No, there is something called the divorce surgery where you work together on your divorce together. So, no, you don't, laugh as much as you like, but it's true.
Don't suck the joy out of life. I mean, that is. I'm only laughing because I find it incredible that actually happens, and I bow to those people if they can be in a situation whereby they can actually share a lawyer. And you wonder if they're so they can work together so much and they have so much in common and they're on the same wavelength. Why are they getting divorced in the first place?
It's deeper than that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit surface level, isn't it?
That's me. Helen, do you want to come in here?
Sorry, I missed the point.
Well, the point was basically sharing a lawyer. I heard you in the background.
I'm not aware of that possibility because there is inevitably a conflict, and I don't mean conflict in the same sense as dispute, but the parties will inevitably have different interests. But for those parties, certainly collaborative family procedure would be a fantastic process, and that is where parties literally sit round a table with coffee and biscuits, usually, and sort out everything together. They adopt a joint problem-solving approach. That's a fantastic process.
That
is what I'm talking about.
They literally hobnob with each other.
It doesn't work for everybody.
They do indeed
Helen.
hobnob, sometimes chocolate hobnobs.
Yes.
But it doesn't work for everybody, Nicky. There are clients,
No, it doesn't.
Where it's not right, that they need that reflection time. There's some parties who aren't as financially astute. They can't understand or grasp the information as quickly. They can't make decisions that quickly. So that process, we can't say that that's just the solution for everything, that we all sit around the table with biscuits and everything will be fine. Some people, you have to tailor the approach to the individual party and their vulnerabilities.
Which is why we are.
Yes,
so good hearing from people this morning. And Rachel, I think the world of you and what you do, and I think it's fantastic the situation. I'm just kind of like an unscrupulous divorce lawyer here. I'm kind of winding it up. You know that. You know that.
I know you're being a devil's advocate.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I'm being sort of, slightly provocative because there's some interesting points coming out. And when I go, I'm kind of thinking, half of me's thinking, I know what you're saying, and the other half's thinking, I have to represent those people who disagree with it. Rita, likewise. I think it's fascinating what you've both said. And thanks again to William in Stockport and to Helen. Tell us about your divorce journeys and what you think about this new legislation. Get in touch.